squirrels! I thought it was the perfect time. Well, we got a little time, and I should be able to get the rest of... What chapter is this? It's in the title. But it's the third part of... Is it 18? Max settled the point by taking the pen out of her hand and beginning to cut it as quietly as Nicholas did on that thrilling occasion. Perhaps he was thinking of that, for he smiled as he asked, hard or soft? Rose evidently had forgotten that the family of Squeers never existed, for she answered, hard, please, in a voice to match. I'm glad to see you doing that, she added, taking courage from his composure and going as straight to her point as could be expected of a woman. And I'm very glad to do it. I don't mean making pens, but the romance I advised. And she touched the cloudy written page before him, looking as if she would like to read it. This is my abstract on a lecture on the circulation of the blood, he answered, kindly turning it so that she could see. I don't write romances, I'm living one. And he glanced up with the happy, hopeful expression which always made her feel as if he were heaping coals of fire on her head. I wish you wouldn't look at me in that way. It fidgets me, she said a little petulantly, for she had been out riding and knew that she did not present a spiritual appearance after the frosty air had reddened nose as well as cheeks. I'll try to remember it does itself before I know it. Perhaps this may mend matters. And taking out the blue glasses he sometimes wore in the wind, he gravely put them on. Rose could not help laughing, but his obedience only aggravated her, for she knew he could observe all the better behind his ugly screen. No, it won't. They're not becoming, and I don't want to look blue when I do not feel so, she said, finding it impossible to guess what he would do next, or to help enjoying his peculiarities. But you don't to me, for in spite of the goggles, everything is rose-colored now, for he picketed the glasses without a murmur at the charming inconsistency of his idol. Really, Mac, I'm tired of this nonsense. It worries me and wastes your time. Never worked harder. Does it really trouble you to know I love you? He asked anxiously. Don't you see how cross it makes me? And she walked away feeling that things were not going as she had expected to have them at all. I don't mind the thorns if I get the rose at last, and I still hope I may some 10 years hence. And this persistent suitor came up daunted by the prospect of a long wait. I think it's rather hard to be loved, whether I like it or not, objected Rose at last. Objected Rose, at a loss how to make any headway against such indomitable hopefulness. But you can't help it, nor can I, so I must go on doing it with all my heart till you marry, and then, well, then I'm afraid I may hate somebody instead. And Max spoilt the pen by an involuntary splash out of his ink. Please don't, Mac. Do which, love or hate? Don't do either. Go and care for someone else. There are plenty of nice girls who will be glad to make you happy, said Rose, intent upon ending her disquiet in some way. That's too easy. I enjoy working for my blessings, and the harder I have to work, the more I value them when they come. Then if I suddenly grew very kind, would you stop caring about me? Asked Rose, wondering if that statement would free her from a passion which both touched and tormented her. Try and see. But there was a traitorous glimmer in Mac's eyes which plainly showed what failure it would be. No, I'll get something to do so absorbing, so shall forget all about you. Don't think about me if it troubles you, he said tenderly. I can't help it, Rose cried to catch back the words, but it was too late. And she added hastily, that is, I cannot help wishing you would forget me. It's a great disappointment to find I was mistaken when I hoped such fine things of you. Yes, you were very sure that it was love when it was poetry, and now you want poetry when I've nothing on hand but love. Will both together please you? Sorry. Try and see. I'll do my best. Anything else? He asked, forgetting the small task she had given him in his eagerness to attempt the greater. Tell me one thing I've often wanted to know, and now you speak of it, often wanted to know, and now you speak of it, I'll venture to ask. Did you care about me when you read Keats to me last summer? No. When did you begin? Asked Rose, smiling in spite of herself at his unflattering honesty. How can I tell? Perhaps it did begin up there. Though for that talk set us to writing, and the letter showed me what a beautiful soul you had. I loved that first it was so quick to recognize good things, to use them when they came and give them out again as conspicuously. Where did I get that word? Recognize good things when it came again as unconsciously as a flower does its breath. I longed for you to come home, and I wanted you to find me altered for the better in some way as I found you. When you came, it was very, very easy to see why I ascended you, to love you entirely and to tell you so. That's all, Rose. A short story, but it was enough. The voice that told it with such simple truth made the few words so elegant. Rose felt strongly tempted to add the sequel Mac desired, but her eyes had fallen as he spoke, for she knew his were fixed upon her, dark and dilated with the only... Her eyes had fallen as he spoke, for she knew those dark and dilated with the same repressed emotion that put such fervor into his quiet tones. And just as she was about to look up, they fell on a shabby little footstool. Trifles affect women curiously, and often most irresistibly when some agitation sways them. The sight of that old hassock vividly recalled Charlie, for he had kicked it on the night she never liked to remember. Like a spark, it fired a long train of reactions, and the thought went through her mind, I fancied I loved him and let him see it, but I deceived myself, and he reproached me for a single look that said too much. That feeling is very different, but too new and sudden to be trusted. I'll neither look nor speak till I'm quite sure, for Mac's love is too far deeper than poor Alex's. Ah, dang it, lost my place. Just said Alex's, but I don't see the word Alex. Maybe I said it wrong. The feelings are different, but too new and sudden to be tried. Neither look nor speak, so I'm quite sure, for Mac's love is far deeper than poor Charlie's. Maybe I said that wrong, and I must be very true. Nor, not in words, did the resolve shape itself, but in a quick impulse which she obeyed, certain it was right. Since it was hard to yield to it, only an instant's silence followed Mac's answer as she stood there, down with her fingers intertwined, and the color varying in her cheeks. A foolish attitude, but Mac thought it a sweet picture of maiden hesitation, and began to hope that a month of wooing was about to end in winning for a lifetime. He deceived himself, however, and cold water fell upon his flame, subduing but by no means quenching it. When Rose looked up with an air of determination which could not escape eyes that were glowing wonderfully fair-sighted lately, "I came in here to beg Uncle to advise you to go away soon. You're very patient and forbearing, and I feel it more than I can tell, but it's not good for you to depend on anyone so much for your happiness, I think. And I know it is bad for me to tell you." Wait a minute. "Bad for me to feel that I have so much power over a fellow creature. Don't let a fancy for me change or delay your work, because it may end as suddenly as it began, and then we should both reproach ourselves and each other. Please do. I respect and care for you so much. I can't be happy to take all and give nothing. I try to, but I'm not sure I want to think it is too soon to know yet." Rose began bravely, but ended in a fluttered sort. I'm so sorry. "I tried to not to do something." Rose began and a flutter as moved to the door. Mac's face fell at first brighten as she went on. At the last word uttered almost involuntarily, he actually laughed low to himself, as if this order into exile pleased him much. "Don't say that you give me nothing when you've just shown me that I'm getting on. I'll go at once, and see if absence won't help you to think, to know, and be sure, as it did help me. I wish I could do something more for you, as I can't. Goodbye." "Are you going now?" And Rose paused in her retreat to look back with a startled face as he offered her a badly made pen and opened the door for her, just as Dr. Alec always did. For in spite of himself, Mac did resemble the best of uncles. "Not yet, but you seem to be." Rose turned as red as a poppy, snatched the pen, and flew upstairs to call herself hard names as she industriously spoiled all Aunt Plenty's new pocket handkerchiefs by marking them AMC. 3 days later, Mac said goodbye in earnest, and no one was surprised. But he left somewhat abruptly, such being his way in a course of lectures by a famous physician, the ostensible reason for a trip to and it's just a blank there. Uncle Alec deserted most shamefully at that last moment by sending word that he would be at the station to see the traveler off. Aunt Plenty was still in her room, so when Mac came down from his farewell to her, Rose met him in the hall, as if anxious not to delay him. She was a little afraid of another tete-a-tete, as she fared so badly at the last. Seems like I read this before. Please, dear Lord. I guess not. As she fared so badly at the last, and had assumed a calm and cousinly air, which she flattered herself would plainly show on which terms she wished to part, Mac apparently understood, and not only took the hint, but surpassed her in cheerful composure for merely saying, "Goodbye, cousin, right when you feel like it." He shook hands and walked out of the house as tranquilly as if only a day instead of 3 months were to pass before they met again. Rose felt as if a sudden shower bath had chilled her, and was about to retire before healing to herself with disdainful decision. "There's no love about it after all, only one of the eccentricities of genius," when a rush of cold air made her turn to find herself in which appeared to be the embrace of an impetuous overcoat, which wrapped her close for an instant, then vanished as suddenly as it had come, leaving her to hide in the sanctum and confide to Psyche with a tender sort of triumphant in her breathless voice, "No, ma'am, it isn't as genius as that." But where'd I go? Dang, I'm almost done. As genius as that. I don't know. We're all about to retire. There's no love about it after all. Only one of the eccentricities of genius, when a rush of cold air made her turn to find herself in what appeared to be the embrace of an impetuous overcoat, which wrapped her close for an instant, then vanished as suddenly as it had come, leaving her to hide in the sanctum and confide to Psyche with a tender sort of triumph in her breathless voice, "No, no, it isn't genius. That must be love." And that's it, finally, of chapter 18. Hope it made sense. Chapter 19 we'll get to tomorrow, I hope so, called Behind the Fountain. And this book only has 22 chapters. If I get one full of excitement next time. Y'all help me if you can think of another book we can read after this one. It's got to be 75 years old or older. In public domain. Other folks may read more contemporary books, but I feel better to stay on the safe side. Love y'all. Be sweet, don't be ugly. See you at Karen's in about 8 minutes from the time I'm saying this. Love ya. Bye-bye.